The barn conversion took 8 weeks. Now it's a TV studio from where I interview independent sales experts, giving you the very best advice and ideas in sales and sales leadership. Welcome to Best Practice for Sales Professionals. And today I'm absolutely thrilled to meet an entrepreneur who has previously been voted a SaaS Top 10 leader. Then he voted Sales for Startups, a business that sees its clients increase its sales by more than 100%. He's also passionate about onboarding new sales staff the right way. James Ker-Reid, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Gert. Really looking forward to it today.
Great. So James, I know you're passionate about onboarding new salespeople. Maybe as a starting point, how do you onboard new salespeople in your own company?
I think there's three key phases for me in terms of the onboarding experience that we take our staff through. You've got the pre-boarding, which is normally a month or 2 months before, so before they've actually walked through the door. The second phase is where you are actually doing the onboarding, typically weeks 1 to 3, and then the ramping phase, and that's typically 4 to 8. In our belief, the first 8 weeks, you kind of win or lose a new joiner in your sales team. So that's really, really important. A couple of highlights from those three phases. Pre-boarding is really about the knowledge about your company. So if you think about it as three key things around the product and the value proposition, the market and the people, and even case studies, i.e. successes. And then you've got the onboarding as well, which is ramping up those initial kind of surface level knowledge to ingrain it in the person's head so they can go out to market with confidence. Then ramping is getting them into the sales process. It's getting them around deals so they can forecast revenue, they can go through a sales process, and they can ultimately close deals.
That sounds very comprehensive. And you know, why should startups bother with a process like the one you described?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key elements. The first is that it costs the average SME in the UK £125,000 every year. So just to put that into perspective, that's 5.7 million businesses in the UK where the average is 125,000 spent on failed hires. So there's some that are obviously more than that. I see a lot more in terms of wastage, in terms of employee spend on the wrong hires. The other part of it is that people are your biggest expansion factors, your biggest X factor in your company. So if you hire, select and onboard the right people, you can really 5-10x the revenue of your company very, very quickly. I've seen people that we've coached and mentor with only 3 months of sales experience. They've done even 4x the company's revenue, not their own target revenue within 6 months. So the upside is humongous. And so I'd encourage everyone to follow a structured and obviously rigorous process to onboarding.
When we chatted before this interview, you were saying that employees and employers have an important role to play in this process. What are your experiences with that?
Yeah, I'll take the employees one first. I think if you're a new sales professional or a sales professional looking for a new role and applying and interviewing currently in the market, they're not necessarily looking ahead as to how that company can really help them take their career to the next level. And so what that means is they're not doing their own due diligence in terms of how many customers have they got, what their pipeline looks like, how long their sales cycle is, how many touch points the existing clients have had in order to become clients, how many people internally are going to need to be involved to get that sales process to a point of fruition, i.e. contracts closed. And therefore, switching that over to the employer's side is what they get wrong, especially with new business or closers in the sales profession, is they don't actually build enough pipeline for those closers to come in. So they give them these 360 roles in terms of lead generation and closing new business, and expect this person to do both. Whereas really what they want to do is create lots of pipeline and then get an account executive or a business development director to come in and close that business down in a short amount of time, hence reaping the most value from that new hire they bring on board.
That's interesting, because traditionally, of course, the 360 salesperson was what it was all about. And you're saying, re-engineer the sales process. So make sure that the person that you hire, who is a door opener, if you like, is different to the person who is a deal closer.
Yeah, we're a big believer. Obviously, we work with startups typically between 10 and 100 people. So our lay of the land is a little bit different from the larger companies. But we talk about pods and tribes. So these are small collection of a kind of virtuous sales and marketing cycle. And it even involves customer success. So you've got a kind of opener, like you said, whose ability is there to generate new opportunities and deals. You have that closer who's a kind of account executive profile who closes the deals, i.e. they get the contract signed. And then you've got the customer success and onboarding professional who obviously drives value and adoption and retention into that customer. And then you've got the inbound marketer who takes all those insights, both from all those three parts, and is able to market that effectively, both customer success wins as well as feedback from the sales team in terms of the deal creation and closure.
Okay, got you. So you talked about the 3 stages of onboarding earlier on, and presumably each of these sales roles will have a slightly different program. But what does good look like in those first 90 days?
Yeah, so good looks like, I think the first is pre-boarding. So for there, I would be about knowledge absorption. So I split it down into 4 key parts. You've got the technical reading, which is around sales skills to bring everyone up to a level. You've got the personal development. You've got the mindset, and then you've got a kind of career-related reading. So that would be something like the first 90 days or the Alliance by Reid Hoffman. So perfect onboarding kind of experience. And then, the onboarding itself, you kind of split that down into a couple of key chunks. You've got the first 2 weeks, which is where you've got an intensity around what you need to know and what you need to do. So need to know 3 key parts. You've got the product and value proposition, the market and people, i.e. your buyer personas, and then you've got your case study. So you need to know that in order to build the foundation to go into a sales scenario. The need to do in week 2 is around a sales process, forecasting and revenue, and then you're into kind of the ramp phase after that. And they are split down into weekly themes after the tight detail in the first 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So maybe to close that off then, if you could give employers or employees who are about to start an onboarding process or about to sign the dotted line, if you like, to join, 1 or 2 tips each, what would they be?
Yeah, one thing that I've hardly ever seen that 18 players do, new joiners, is actually write your own onboarding plan.
Wow.
So if you want to be successful in a role, write your own onboarding plan and then merge the 2 with the employer's onboarding plan. You come up with best practice, because sales professionals also have their own abilities and talents, and certain things they're going to have to go deep on and spend more time on, and others it may take hours rather than days to complete. So that's number 1. The second one is the employer does need to have a structured onboarding plan. So that means you need to do the pre-boarding phase, you need that onboarding and the ramp phase, and split it, like I said, down into intense 2 weeks and then into themed weeks that have outcomes related to those weeks. And then the final one is when you're going through the selection and ultimately the agreement with that new employee, you've got to share a scorecard with them. So I'm a big believer in ever read the book Who by Jeff Smart, or Top Grading is another book. But you basically have a list of goals and outcomes you want this person to achieve in the role. You should be sharing that just before the final interview, and that should obviously be correlated and discussed during that onboarding phase with the new starter, so they know exactly what they're trying to ramp up towards, and it's not just let's go and meet the team, let's have coffee with members and see what happens. Yeah.
James, thanks very much for joining us on the show today. Thanks for your insights, and good luck with the business.
Thank you very much, Ker.
If you like the show, then share and let others know. If you'd like a sales subject covered during the show, then let me know. And if you want some help with your sales challenges, then feel free to get in touch. There's always a way forward.